Chapter 275 Fragrant Tea. This tea house wasn't large. It was only a single-story building with 3 rooms. Before having even entered, Han Li could already smell the fragrant scent of tea. Han Li was somewhat surprised. Although Han Li did not understand much about the intricacies of tea, he felt a slight trace of spiritual qi from the tea fragrance. His heart stirred, and he did not hesitate to enter any further. The 3 rooms were arranged side to side with 1 large room and 2 small. At this moment, it was filled with groups of 3 to 4 tea guests. The tea shop didn't have any empty seats, so 7 to 8 differently dressed patrons peacefully waited at the side. Even though the tea shop had many guests inside, there wasn't a single person making a ruckus. The majority of them softly closed their eyes and sipped the fragrant tea before them. There were only a few people who were whispering. On the wall of the largest room at the center, a several-meter-long yellow paper banner hung from the top of the wall. On it was written, "Every guest is limited to 1 pot per day," in large and bold calligraphy. It was quite eye-catching. When Han Li saw this, he found it funny. This was the first time he heard of those making a living from selling food or drink limiting the quantities that others could buy. However, he only laughed away and didn't take the trouble to think of it further. Instead, he swept his gaze across the room and immediately spotted a person appearing to be the shopkeeper pacing back and forth in a corner. This should be the tea shop's shopkeep. He appeared to be over 40 years old and had short facial hair, giving him an exceptionally shrewd appearance. At this moment he was standing at the front counter, using an abacus with a lowered head. From time to time, he turned his head to look at his ledger. Han Li walked several steps over and stood in front of the desk, remaining calm and silent. This caused the shopkeep to look up with a bit of surprise. Once he clearly saw Han Li, his expression immediately changed. He hastily put his abacus and ledger to the side and left the front counter. With slight reverence, he respectfully asked, "Is there any matter this junior may help senior with? This one will spare no effort." This shopkeep was unexpectedly a cultivator in addition to a shopkeep, but his cultivation was pathetically low. He was only at the 4th layer of qi condensation. Now that he was facing a senior with unfathomably deep cultivation, his heart was naturally restless. Han Li didn't say anything further. He lightly wiped against the desk counter with his sleeve pocket, leaving behind a sparkling azure jade pendant on the counter. When the shopkeep saw this jade pendant, he stared blankly at it. But soon after, he said with an expression of pleasant surprise, "So it turned out to be Senior Han. This junior is lacking in manners. Young Master Qi has already told me that Senior would arrive in the near future. This junior has been waiting for you for quite a long time." When Han Li heard this, he put away his jade pendant and peacefully said, "I wish to now see your clan's young master. Please show me the way. I will follow your orders, Senior." He first called over 2 of the store's waiters, and after telling them a few words, he brought Han Li to the back door and left the town, heading west. Gold Horse Town had a large expanse of yellow-green hills on its west side. They were countless and varied of all sizes. The shopkeep brought Han Li through the hills with much familiarity and made several turns. They then arrived at a sunken depression that spanned over 15 acres. At the center of the depression were 7 to 8 white stone rooms. To the east and west of the rooms, there were several batches of thinly spread azure bamboo. After the shopkeep brought Han Li to this location, he bowed to Han Li and said, "Senior, the young master is within the rooms. However, the rooms are surrounded by a few formation spells. Normally I would report to the young master before bringing an outsider in, but since the young master has already told me about Senior Han, if Senior closely follows behind me, you can enter. Otherwise, you will activate the formation spells." Han Li thoughtfully looked around the depression and the disorderly azure bamboo, indifferently saying, "I understand. Don't hesitate to lead the way." When shopkeeps heard Han Li, he let out a deep breath and carefully brought Han Li to the rooms. His path forward was quite peculiar. In one moment he would walk forward 3 steps, then walk back 2 steps, Then walk 5 steps, then turn around and step 6 steps that way. It was quite chaotic, it was as if there was no pattern that could be discerned. As such, the two slowly approached the rooms at the center of the depression. "Young master, Senior Han has arrived. Please come out and see for yourself." When they were about 30 meters away from the room, the shopkeep let out a breath and loudly yelled toward the largest room. "Senior Han has come? That is great. However, please wait a moment. I will be right out." Qi Yongxiao's pleasantly surprised voice came from within the room, but soon after, a smothered bang could be heard, followed by Qi Yongxiao's bitter cursing. Sigh, another failure. When the stone door opened, Qi Yongxiao walked out with an appearance of disappointment. He carried the scent of a blazing fire on his body. However, after he saw Han Li, his face suddenly became bright and excitedly approached, saying, "It really is Senior. This is truly great. Please follow me, let Junior show your hospitality as a host. This place has some top-quality tea. Let's have a few cups." Qi Yongxiao cordially invited Han Li into a room. His movements had become much more experienced since Han Li had last seen him several years ago. "Then I must thank you." Han Li knew that he still had to request his help and was very polite. After that, he entered the room and sat near a long table that was 3 meters long. "Senior, that." Once Qi Yongxiao commanded the shopkeep to make a pot of tea, he turned his hand and seemed to hesitate, wanting to ask Han Li something. With a silent smile, Han Li took out the book Yongxiao Experience and placed it on the table. The book's flickering silver light had remained, showing that the seal was still intact. When Qi Yongxiao saw this book, his spirit shook. But when he thought to reach out and take it, he suddenly thought of something and promptly said, "Senior, please wait a moment." He hastily walked out. Han Li faintly smiled, as if he had guessed his intentions. Not long after, Qi Yongxiao animatedly returned to the room with a small wooden box about a foot long. "Senior, this is a set of formation establishment magic tools for the improved 5 elements reversal formation. Although its strength isn't as high as the spell formation's original might like I predicted, the improved formation is still more powerful than the formation I gave you originally by 3 times. Qi Yongxiao said somewhat apologetically. It seemed he was still a bit worried since he hadn't improved the formation establishment magic tool's power to what was previously agreed. 3 times? Han Li's expression changed, his heart feeling extremely amazed. A tenth of the 5-element reversal formation was already enough to completely satisfy Han Li, who felt there was no need for further improvement. Even a core formation cultivator such as Lei Wan had felt this formation was quite a pain to deal with. If he truly improved the formation to the point where it was 3 times more powerful, it could resist even core formation cultivators. With this thought, Han Li couldn't help but want to look inside the wooden box. Meanwhile, Qi Yongxiao picked up the silver book and carefully looked at it. When Han Li opened the box, he saw a set of formation flags and plates with oppressive spiritual qi. Han Li took them out for a careful look. This set of magic tools had much more formation flags and formation plates than the previous set. Furthermore, the decorative design and written seals were obviously more complicated. It appeared that what he said wasn't false. Its strength was far greater than its previous iteration. Han Li put away the formation flags with satisfaction and then took a look at Qi Yongxiao. At this moment, Qi Yongxiao had lightly stroked Yongxiao Experience with a smile. It seemed he made a similar inspection and confirmed the seal had remained. "I am very satisfied with these improved set of formation establishment magic tools. I have truly troubled you, fellow Taoist," Han Li said with a slight smile. Senior's words are over-exaggerating. This one is truly grateful that Senior returned this book with its seal intact. This junior should be thanking you greatly. When Qi Yongxiao heard Han Li's words, he shook his head as if he were beating a drum with it and cordially replied. Han Li smiled, and after saying a few more modest remarks, he chatted a bit with Qi Yongxiao. The shopkeep came a moment later and served 2 cups of lovely emerald green tea. The tea's fragrance was clearly far richer than the tea from the Clear Spring tea house. Obviously, higher-grade tea leaves released slightly heavier amounts of spiritual qi. Under Qi Yongxiao's eager invitation, Han Li took 2 sips. He immediately felt his mouth refreshed and his mind cleared. He couldn't help but praised it, saying, "Good tea. I didn't know tea leaves could be blended with spiritual qi. It's too wonderful for words. I assume these must have personally been made by fellow Taoist. I am truly in admiration." Han Li's words were actually said with sincerity. To be able to blend spiritual qi with common tea leaves, this was something Han Li had never heard of. Furthermore, the tea's fragrance was incomparable, far better than the top teas of the mortal world. When Qi Yongxiao heard Han Li's words, he wore an embarrassed expression and hastily explained, "Senior misunderstands. This tea was not refined by this junior. My close friend gave it to me as a present. These tea leaves were the result of nearly 10 years of my close friend's research in the mortal world."